Hello and welcome to Trans Voices in Conversation. We at TVC want to give you insight into the lives and careers of some of the many talented creatives we've had the pleasure of working with. My name is Misia Butler and I am an actor, writer and producer with TVC, and I will be your host for the series. In our first episode, we are joined by Harrison Knights, the artistic director of TVC, Trans Voices Company. Would you like to introduce yourself, Harrison?
My name is Harrison Knights. I'm a trans actor and musician, a bit of a singer. I founded Trans Voices Company, which came out of Trans Voices Cabaret, which was founded in New York in 2016. And I asked the artistic director of the cabaret over there, Donnie, if it was okay to bring it over to London, because it felt like the right place to have it on, in the heart of the West End. And he said, yeah, go for it. So I did, and that's sort of where I am now. And yes, I'm a jobbing actor, but I'm also the artistic director of Trans Voices Company.
So yes, Trans Voices Company, we're both very big advocates for trans work in the arts, partly selfishly, as we are both trans actors ourselves. But would you like to sort of explain how it came about into moving from cabaret into company?
Yeah, so I had an idea that I wanted to do a specific play that I still want to do, but I haven't quite found the right way to do it yet, whereby the core ensemble, who are normally played by cis men, I feel like it would have a really lovely reimagining as potentially a trans male / maybe non-binary assigned female at birth ensemble. And I was wondering how to do that. I had this idea, and I also was doing cabaret at the same time. And then suddenly I thought, well, why don't we make it into Trans Voices Company and have a theatre company alongside the cabaret that we could sort of use people across the two platforms, or sort of amalgamate them a bit, and do some straight acting as well as just musical theatre, because there are trans musical theatre actors out there, but it's quite a limited pool. Whereas there are more trans actors that maybe don't sing. I mean, I think singing for trans people can be a bit daunting, with the sort of very gendered idea that voices have. Certainly singing voices, this idea that we're split into soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and we've been taught that soprano and alto tend to be sung by women and tenor and bass tend to be sung by men. That's not necessarily true even in the cis community. So I think having trans musical theatre singers, or trans singers in general, they are few and far between, but they do exist, and the idea was to have that platform. But then also there's lots of trans actors that don't sing, so I wanted to also help those people as well.
Well, thank you very much, because I consider myself one of those people that don't sing.
That's not true. You have a lovely voice.
Thank you very much. We'll see if that ever comes out into the public. And has working with almost entirely trans creatives been a sort of a different experience for you in the room, and finding the right people as well?
Yes and no. I think at the core of it, the art remains as integral and as integrated as if I was in a cis group of creatives. I think the outcome it can be different, but it's different. It's not of a lesser quality. There's lots of things that you don't have to end up explaining to people, which is good. And there's lots of things that you don't have to explain certain terminology most of the time, and it does give a different viewpoint. I think most people view theatre through the eyes of cis people. I wouldn't necessarily say cis hetero people. Certainly in terms of musical theatre, it's not. I don't think the sexuality is too much of an issue. The sexuality narratives are different, but viewing it through the eyes of creators who are in the LGB spectrum, I don't think that's lacking necessarily. But I think we do view our world through cis eyes, and that's fine, but it's all we've ever known. So, I think having a mixture of trans and cis creatives is probably the best way through it, to be honest.
And do you have any sort of ways of improving or tips for cis companies or cis directors or cis producers for facilitating rooms with lots of trans people, or even just a few trans people?
Yeah, I would certainly say if you're going down that route, then before you even get to, let's say it was a casting, maybe, for a trans character, and you specifically, well, you should be looking for a trans actor, then, have those conversations before the casting happens, so that you don't just, it shouldn't be a normal day for you in the office. Just like I don't want to compare different minorities, but if you were having a disabled character that you were casting for and you didn't offer accessibility, you would very obviously see that was an issue.
Yeah.
Because it feels a little bit more tangible. Whereas, why you should be having gender-neutral toilets, you should be having pronouns at the beginning of your casting, which I actually think that everybody should be doing as a matter of normality now, regardless of whether it's an issue or it's important to anybody. It should just be happening, so that when you do get that one or two people that do come in and it makes a massive difference to them, they don't feel like they're being singled out by it. So I mean, certainly talk to some sort of consultant, or get some maybe get somebody in the room in the casting auditions. Don't just ring somebody up and say, how do I go about this? Why don't you actually get them in the room to shadow you? Because there are lots of people that would love to do that. I'd love to shadow casting directors. I love, well, full well how producery my mind is. I have lists and lists on my phone of different trans actors that are suited for different things. Yeah. I have a musical theatre list, I have a straight acting list, I have trans men, I have non-binary people, I have trans femme, I have BAME, and they're all on different lists that they all interchange as well. And somebody will say to me, I need somebody like this, and I'm like, let me just look through my list. Right, you need to talk to this person. So, just ask the people. I think a lot of British theatre people at the moment, particularly in the mainstream, who have been casting for trans roles, not necessarily appropriately, and they're big companies, need to learn to swallow their pride sometimes and just ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It's much better in the long run to ask for help and not get it wrong. Yeah. And then you won't get the backlash, which has been happening. I certainly was part of a casting process. Well, not necessarily part of it. I was involved in, as in I was cast in the show. And I had them come back to me and say that they'd cast somebody, a cis person in a role that was supposed to be a trans character. And I said, I'm not comfortable continuing in this role that I'm doing. And there were a few of us that weren't comfortable. And we voiced that. And because we happened to be in the production, we were able to actually postpone the production until the casting was appropriate. Yeah. So, but they already had us in the casting process already. Whereas if we're not in it, we can't help you. We can't help you sort of halt it before you get any backlash. Thankfully, this production that I was in decided to put a halt on it, which meant that it never went out nobody picked it up. Yeah. So it's great for their company because they haven't had that backlash. Whereas a couple of others that have happened recently who didn't have appropriate casting consultants or just even asked somebody if they thought this was appropriate, and it went out into the mainstream and we picked it up and we ran with it because, it's our narratives that you're telling and you're doing it without our help. And it's just... it's getting a bit silly now, really.
Yeah.
To say the least.
It's such a cliche to say things like, "Oh, it's 2020, we shouldn't be dealing with this," but it sort of feels like that, doesn't it? We feel like the narratives of trans people have been out there for a long time now, and things should be doing, like, they should be doing it right.
I put something actually on Twitter today, which the young Vic had put up a tweet to say, in a hypothetical world, you've got the young Vic stage for a day, you have as much money as you like, any resources you want, what show would you put out? And I put out that I really wanted to do the History Boys, which might link to the first thing that I was saying as to why a company might have come about.
Maybe, who knows?
And I said I wanted to do the History Boys, and I tagged some people in it, some casting directors, some producers, some artistic directors of big theatres, and said, look, I really want to do this. We aren't being taken seriously. I've tried to move this forward, and we're being halted at sort of every door. Why is this happening? Can you help us? You know, the mainstream theatre world at the moment, particularly recently, has failed the trans community. You know, be brave, be bold, step out of your comfort zone and do something that could actually really make a difference here. And I know lots of trans people that would say that wasn't being brave. That was just being, you know...
Decent.
Decent, yeah, just. And I just don't quite understand why it's not happened yet. I don't understand it, because it could be so big and it could make somebody's company. It could, you know, I mean, like Death of a Salesman, the all-BAME version of Death of a Salesman, which Elliot Harper Productions had a massive following. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
I don't like to compare minorities, but sometimes it's more tangible to be able to see the comparison there. But I just don't see what they're doing. I just think maybe it's just not. Again, they're looking through cis eyes. They're not. They don't see the need for it. Maybe you know that song in Prince of Egypt, Look Through Heaven's Eyes? Yeah. Maybe we should do like a remake of Look Through Cis Eyes. I'll record it.
Your producer brain is always going, isn't it?
I'll get my tambourine out. It'll be great.
Can't wait. On a sort of smaller scale, is there anything that listeners, say, not necessarily big producers or big directors or whatever, can do to help trans representation in the creative industry?
Yeah, I would, firstly, very simply, follow some trans actors on Twitter. That tweet I put out today.
Do you want to drop your Twitter handle?
Yeah, do I? It's @hasnights is mine. What's yours, Misha?
Mine is @Misia Butler, but it's spelt Misia, just so you know.
There we go. I mean, those two couldn't be more original if we tried. Yeah, so the tweet I put out today, retweeting the Young Vic, I've had lots and lots of people comment and say, oh my God, I'd love to see this. I'd love to see it. Which gives me real hope that actually this community, we've got some really great allies and they really want to help us. And that really gave me some hope, actually. So what I do, is certainly follow some really cool trans people on social media. I would start questioning people maybe about castings, and I think we've certainly got through with the whole trying to make theatre more diverse. Certainly in terms, racially in theatre, maybe not so much with TV. I'm not sure. I might be picking that apart a bit, but so we see the problem with a lot of trans people is that on stage, certainly people that pass, that's somebody who, if you walk down the street, you wouldn't notice that they might have transitioned. I think that's maybe not so visible on stage if you've got passing trans people. So maybe it's that idea that casting directors think, oh, well, if it's not obvious, then we don't need to do it. So, follow some trans people, ask this question, start asking, why is that not so diverse? Why have you not got any trans people? Why have you not got any gender non-conforming people in your cast? What else could you do? Just be cool.
That's all we ask.
Just like challenge people and follow some people and maybe talk to trans people and say, like, how are you feeling at the moment? How are you doing? How's casting going? We quite like being able to debrief with people and say, actually, no, I'm really frustrated with this at the moment, or I've just had this casting call come through and I'm totally not right, and they've only given it to me because it says they're trans. And we can talk to our trans people about that all the time, because most of us are up for the same roles. But, you know, if a cis person came up to me and said that, I'd really take notice that they're like, oh my God, this person's actually really interested in this and really wants to try and make a difference. And at the moment, we are shouting as loudly as we can from the trans community. It will be the cis people that make it for us, that make that break, because at the moment they've just got more power. Certainly in terms of hierarchy in theatre world, it's full of cis people. I don't know any trans artistic directors. I know one or two trans theatre directors. So it will come, that big break will come from the cis community. So if you want to help us, get on board.
That would be great. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sort of maybe moving away a bit from TVC and things. Obviously, it's a really difficult time for everyone in the creative industry. And I was just thinking about any projects you had in the back of your mind, apart from History Boys, or anything that you wanted to work towards in the future that was sort of keeping you going, that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So I'm in the process at the moment of sort of co-writing a something. I'm not really sure at what platform, how it will be done, but probably like a web one-off, maybe.
Yeah.
Which I was talking to a friend of mine, Rebecca Vines, yesterday, who's a director and theatre practitioner, who helped TVC recently with a production of Tom Brown's School Days. And we had been writing, it was something that we wanted to actually take to the Fringe, thankfully. I didn't put any money into it this year, so I'm quite happy we didn't. And she had been writing something from a trans actor's point of view, a young sort of 20-year-old lad, and all the struggles he has as a trans actor, of all these casting calls that keep coming through that he's totally not right for, or that sort of thing, and how we deal with them. So she had been writing a sort of little play that had very obnoxious agents and casting directors and that sort of thing in it. And obviously that's not going to happen as a play this year, but we have this idea of maybe turning it into a web one-off, where it's all sort of Zoom panels and people attempting to do self-tapes and all those stupid things that you see go wrong in self-tapes, where you've got... They always look wonderful. If you're not an actor and you look at them, you always think, oh, they look really good. But actually, it's like somebody's bedsheet that they've pinned up, and they've balanced their phone on 100 books in a bin and all this sort of thing. Yeah. And always the phone falls off at the wrong point. Or you're doing it with your mum and your mum puts on some stupid accent. Or I saw a great outtake of somebody putting a self-tape up recently. Oh, it was so good. About his mum cutting him off after, before they had to cut, and she'd be like, yeah, I thought that went really well, and he was like, I'm still acting. Or she'd say something like, I just think you could put more emphasis on this, and he's like, you're not Steven Spielberg, what are you doing? We had a great one, didn't we, where I was doing a sort of introduction video for something that I was sending off to sort of introduce myself, and Misha's cat walked behind me on the piano, and I was like, Freddie, what are you doing?
He's a drama queen. He always wants the limelight.
He wants to be in the limelight, yeah. So something to do with that, which is sort of in the back of my mind, because we're going to be running out of entertainment soon, and it's all going to start looking like the same thing in those sort of panels. So we wanted to sort of get on that. What else have I got in the pipeline? Or what else would I like to do? I'd really like to do some TV. I'd love to do some period drama. I'm a massive lover of Call the Midwife, and I'd really like to be in Call the Midwife.
So any Call the Midwife casting directors or producers out there, Harrison Knights.
Yeah, Sophie Parrott, give me a ring. I'd love to be in that. What else? Well, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this podcast.
This podcast.
I'm sort of talking to somebody who's writing a new musical which has a trans narrative in, which I can't really say much about, but that's quite exciting.
Mm-hmm.
What else am I doing, Misha?
I mean, you don't have to be doing much. To be fair, it's a time where there's this strange dichotomy of people who are doing loads and people who are doing very little, and we're trying to toe the line between, you know, making people feel guilty for not doing anything, but also encouraging people to be creative. You know, it's they're two sides of the same coin, and it's really difficult to toe that line, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there and you don't have the energy or the space of mind or the emotional capacity to do anything creative or look forward to something creative, there's nothing bad about that.
Yeah, I think like most creatives, if they're struggling for work or struggling to get cast and stuff, try to make their own work, which I certainly think, like, certainly us two do that quite a lot. But then we get stuck at a certain point where we've made work and it's ready to go out, or, you know, it's sort of nearing the end of its first process, and then we don't know what to do with it next.
Yeah.
Because we haven't got the right contacts, or we don't know how this world works. I mean, certainly we're finding that a little bit in TV at the moment, or film. Theatre I find a little bit easier. You know, none of us are taught how to do this.
Yeah.
And then I think with the added pressure of being trans, maybe that it's harder to break through.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a godsend, though, because some people think, oh, that's a voice I've not heard before, so we'll give them a leg up. It's the difference between equality versus equity as well, I guess. But, yeah, I think you can be as creative as you like, but then if you haven't got the next stage to help produce it further, you can get stuck. And I think that happens in a lot of work where you've got like piles and piles of scripts that you've written. Certainly not me, I'm not a writer, but I know you are. That you've got hundreds of plays or, you know, ideas brimming in your head, but you don't know how to. If you even put them on a page, you then don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Theatre, as I say, is easier because you can just get a space and do it. Whereas, you know, all the camera stuff and the tech and the editing and stuff that's linked with film and TV, it's hard to know how to move forward.
Yeah, and that's why it's quite you know, it is heartening to see things like BAFTA scheme. I've forgotten what it's called just at the moment. That they have like a scheme that brings up new queer filmmakers.
BFI Flair? No.
Even Flair too, and that's BFI Flair is great, and I know that a lot of people were really disappointed this year with it being cancelled and all that. But I think a lot of those filmmakers either are releasing their stuff online for you to see, or are, you know, there's various showcases of their work online. So if you can, especially I think trans filmmakers, because I think that's such a you know, a niche that, as you say, is not really being explored, a voice that's not really being heard. So if you can find them, for some reason my mind has gone blank and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we can link some in the podcast release. Or if you are a trans filmmaker and you want your voice heard, please talk to TVC and we'll try and put it out there.
Yeah, again, it's that idea that there are trans narratives out there, but again, it's written and seen through cis eyes. That could be the name of our episode.
Seen through cis eyes.
Seen through cis eyes. I'm Harrison Knights and I'll do the voice reel. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff out there, but again, it's just not. It's not authentic.
Yeah.
Essentially,
it needs to sort of come, at least at this point, from the person who's actually experienced it. Otherwise, you will never really truly understand the visceral truthfulness of that experience.
Yeah, certainly original stuff. If you're writing something, maybe think, why am I writing this? It's different if it's already been written and it's an adaptation of something. That's slightly different, but sort of think, you know, why am I writing this? And if you can find a decent reason, then great. But if it's just because it's a little bit, you know, fresh and it's a little bit interesting and a bit edgy, because that's all we are. We're just edgy. because we're trans, then just have a little look at yourself and think, because some of us are really boring. I'm really boring.
No, you're not. This whole podcast has shown that you're definitely not boring. But I would say also with people who are writing those stories, have a look at why you're doing them, and but also talk to trans people. If you are writing a story about a certain experience, I know as a writer for myself, I find it really hard to wrap my head around certain experiences. It's not to say that writers can't write their own experiences, because other people's experiences, because that would defeat the point of writing, I think. But it is a very, very different experience, I think, and it's one that's very hard to relate to a lot of people. I know that that's a constant struggle of mine, and it probably is for a lot of trans people out there. So if you're a cis person who's not talked to any trans people, maybe read an article online and gone, I'm going to write a trans character, maybe look at why you're doing that and how you can improve on that, because it'd be great to have more trans characters, but only if they're told right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really sick of the trans woe is me storyline. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you. I'm so bored of it. Honestly, if you get to the end of a trans film and the trans character hasn't died, blimey, you've found something great there.
Yeah.
It's just so boring, and it's been done. And I mean, we all have different experiences, but certainly my experience was very good. And it's sad that that's also not being seen. And it's sad that it's always coming from the point of view of possibly like a really terrible parent. And that's really sad as well, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
I know my mum gets really upset when she sees... we were watching Holby City recently, of which I've been consulting on, and I'm really proud to have been consulting on that. Mm-hmm. And this particular storyline, the mother is awful in it. Not the actress, she's great. But I mean, the portrayal of the mother, she doesn't take to this transition very well. And my mum really struggled to watch it, because she's just thought it's just not true, and it gives trans parents a bad light if it's constantly the same thing being thrown out all the time. Yeah. So it's not just the trans narrative, but it's how people relate to, not outsiders, but people on the peripherals, like friends and family, and how they are portrayed within these storylines as well.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I know that for me, the idea of then coming out when I'd only ever experienced storylines, for any queer storylines really, as a terrifying thing where the parents were naturally going to freak out a little bit. It made it really scary to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And how damaging is that to see? And at some point, it probably later down in the narrative, the classic would be that the parents actually are fine with it in the end, and they all go to counselling, and it's all good and happy and unicorns and rainbows at the end. But if it's so terrible at the beginning, why would anybody come out?
Well, that's a constant struggle, isn't it?
Why would you put yourself through that if that's all that's being shown all the time? Yeah, and then you get another one, the flip side, where there's no reaction at all.
Yeah,
I saw a show recently where a character came out and nobody reacted. I thought, well, that's just silly. That's just not.
Yeah.
How you would. They were just like, yeah, okay, and moved on. I was like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a kind of a middle ground that
there's
we're trying
to find
there. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, I have some sort of... Harrison, before this, asked me to prepare him a little quiz because we wanted to play a little game. So
I really hope I'm not going to be terrible. We'll cut it out if I'm rubbish.
I hope so too. I've actually thrown my phone across the room so that it doesn't buzz near the camera.
Pause.
So I'm going to pause it. Yeah. Okay, we're back. So here is my little quiz for you. It's not very many questions. I only have about 5 questions. But the twist on the quiz is that every answer begins with either T, V, or C.
Oh, hello.
There's
a twist already.
There's a twist already. And it's pretty queer and musical theatre related as well.
Oh, God, I'm going to be dreadful. Right, okay.
Okay, so first question. First question. What is the name of Roxy Hart's idol turned nemesis turned double act partner?
Velma Kelly.
Velma Kelly. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding,
First
ding.
question right. That's 1 out of 5. Okay, what famous event and film was turned into a musical that has been performed, relevantly, from a boat?
Titanic.
Titanic.
Ding, ding, ding.
I don't know if I've given way too many sort of clues in all these questions. Maybe I should make them harder.
That's a great score to Titanic. If you don't know it, it's great. Listen to it. Not the Jack and Rose one. I mean, that's good too.
That's good
but
too,
the
yeah.
musical is great.
A little sort of aside there.
Yeah, a little side, yeah.
Anyway, number 3. The rainbow flag. This is a really easy one. The rainbow flag has been a classic symbol of queer pride. What is the last colour in the rainbow?
In the flag, or because it's different, isn't it?
I looked it up and it seemed the same.
No, because isn't there 6 in the...
Okay, well, in an actual rainbow then.
And it's got to be T, V or C, so it must be violet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made that way too easy, haven't I?
I'm pretty sure that in the flag, there's only 6 colours. But maybe look that up.
We'll look it up. Fact check us.
Oh, unless you have the inclusive one with the brown and black as well. But that doesn't begin with a T, a V or a C. So
No,
it's not those.
It's definitely not those. Well, you got it right. What I was
Thank
looking
you.
for there. So, okay. Already 3 out of 3. This is way too easy a quiz. Number 4. What Academy Award-winning movie musical, made in the 70s, features 2 bisexual leads? Maybe more.
Oh, God. 2 bisexual leads. Musical.
Dude, like
musical.
explicitly bisexual. There's other characters that are probably not straight as well.
Oh, Cabaret.
Yep.
There we go. I was like, Victoria, that wasn't written in the 70s.
Okay, 4 out of 4. You're doing very well. The last one for you, I don't know, it might be a bit more difficult. I really love this story, so I wanted to put it in. Okay. What novel by Sarah Waters follows the journey of a gay drag king in Victorian England? This was made into a miniseries and more recently a musical, The Lyric Hammersmith.
Oh my God.
Literally got it on my bookshelf just over there.
A Victorian drag king. Ooh. The Lyric Hammersmith recently.
Well, I think it was about 2016, 2017, 2016? I don't know. I think something like that.
Oh no. I don't know.
You failed at the last hurdle.
I don't think I know this. Can you give me a clue?
Keely Hawes was in the miniseries. Do you know her?
Yeah, I do know her, but I don't know what she's in.
Okay.
I know she was in The Bodyguard. That doesn't begin with a TV or a C, but I would see that musical.
Yeah. Actually, this is a little clue here. It's got 2 of the letters in it. In the whole title. It starts with one of the letters, and then the third word is another one of the letters.
I don't think I'm going to get this one.
Okay, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
It's Tipping the Velvet.
Oh, balls.
Oh, balls.
Tipping the Velvet. Yeah, okay.
Right, well, you did very well.
I know people in my company will have got that because they're so much more queer than I am. Is that a musical? Was it good? Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. I actually studied it as part of my drama A-level, and I really enjoyed it. It was a sort of, because the story is very music halls based. It was sort of a musical in that sense, more cabaret-esque, where they had songs.
That's cool. That's sort of my sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think you'd be into it.
Oh, maybe it's a thing for TVC.
For TV, it would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works with drag and I don't know, drag and trans people. That's a whole other question, I suppose. Neither of us are drag people, yeah. So I don't know if we can drag royalty. So I don't know if we can weigh in on this question. But maybe we'll talk to someone in the future about that on this podcast. Well, 4 out of 5. Well done, Harrison
I'm
Knights.
pretty happy about that.
Yeah, you
actually.
should be. I don't know if all of those questions are way too easy, apart from the last one, but I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you.
Appreciate it.
So do you want to finish off this podcast with... I wrote down a little nice thing, because it's a little bit of a sad moment at the time we're in at the moment. And I want you to name 3 things that... Sorry, the mail just came in. I don't know if you could hear that, but it was really loud. 3 things that made you smile recently.
3 things that made me smile. 1, Alex Parker, who's a musical director, and a composer, did a cappella version, like, you know, on that a cappella app thing, of Journey to the Past from Anastasia, with the original Anastasia, Liz Calloway, and like various musicians, and that made me smile. It actually made me tear up a bit, because it's just beautiful orchestration by a guy called Martin Higgins, who's just... The orchestration was amazing, so go and check that out. That's 1. 2, you made me smile having this podcast, because I can see your face. And if you don't know Misha, you need to look at his headshot, because he's beautiful.
No, you just made me smile. So
see? It's catching. Let's not talk about things that are catching.
No. Too soon.
Too soon. 3, what made me smile? I had a really nice ice bun about an hour ago.
Lovely.
They always make me smile. If you want to make me smile, get me a nice bun.
Maybe I'll send one over. I'll send one over to your house.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that. So that's classic. Music, faces, food.
I think that's what's getting everyone through, actually, to be honest. Those 3 things.
That wins my heart.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Harrison Knights. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Mish.
And
soon.
Hopefully, speak soon. All right then. Bye-bye.